Okay, and welcome everybody to another installment of Dare to Create, which happens every Sunday at 7 p.m. UK time. So, welcome to this week of Dare to Create. If you can hear me, please do let me know. Send me a little comment. Hopefully, this week I'll see the comments. Last week I was having some trouble. And if you have not seen the other Dare to Create workshops that happen on a Sunday, I invite you to check them out. On the first week, we looked at creating a master list, looking at the projects that you've got going and choosing which ones to prioritize and which ones to let go of, and perhaps which ones to schedule or delegate. And then we looked the second week at creating a vision of the life you want to create as an artist, as a creative, or even the business you want to have as a creative or an artist. And so if you haven't checked out those ones, do go have a look. If you're on Instagram, they're on IGTV, and on Facebook, they're just on my page. They're coaching and hypnotherapy, and on the community, they're to be seen community.com. Now, let's use here and let us start straight away. Now, these workshops are very interactive. So, what I invite you to do is to actually have a piece of paper with you and a pen, or if you prefer to speak instead of write, then what I would invite you to do is to have just your phone and record your voice on the phone. You can use any app on your phone. You can just search for a recorder app. So now the important thing that we're going to really look at today is going through a goal, looking at a specific goal that is in alignment with your vision. So you've done your vision work, you know what you'd like in your life. Now we need to work backwards to look at how are you going to achieve this goal, and what kind of, how you're going to achieve this vision, and what kind of goals are you going to put in place so that this vision becomes true and real. So, for example, one of your vision might be that you want to live your life as an artist, as a creative. You want to make sure that you work as a creative, and in order to have enough money to survive, for example, you may need different income streams. So one of the goals that you may want to work on is the income stream, one specific income stream that you're going to focus on. And maybe the first income stream is either something that you're really passionate about, or if you need money now, then it needs to be something easy to do, something that you can do in a relatively short amount of time. So it's either the kind of goal that you choose always needs to be in alignment with the vision of your life, with your values, but at the same time, you can decide which goal you're going to go for in terms of whether it's a passion-driven goal or a money-driven goal. So decide which one is going to be, and let's define the goal. The first thing we want to do is we want to state this goal in positive terms. So not what you don't want, but what you want instead of that. What would you rather have? And really try to be specific. Talk about, if I were to ask you, what is it that you want? When is it that you want it? Where is this going to happen? With whom? What is it? You got to be specific, because if it's just vague, you've got nothing to go for, okay? There's nothing that you can measure your success. So how will you know you've achieved that specific goal? A goal is not, I want to be happy. That's not a goal. It's like, okay, I want my life to be full of joy. Okay, what's going to give me joy? And then let's look at one of the things perhaps that is going to give you joy, for example. Okay, so be specific. How are things different when you achieve this particular thing, this particular goal, and how does it affect your perspective on life? Okay, let's use your imagination to pull it closer. So imagine you wake up tomorrow and your goal is being achieved. What is it like? Speak it out loud or write it in a comment or write it on a piece of paper. Okay, I'm going to give you a bit of time to do this. Here we go. Is this what you really want? You know, once you've written it down, does it feel like this is actually what you really want? If not, change it now. And how much influence do you have over this? I want you to really think about it. How are you responsible for making this happen? You know, what can you do to achieve this? Is it in your power to achieve this? Be honest with yourself. And now we want to check whether this goal is in balance. You know, what are the consequences of getting this for you? What are the consequences for you? What are the consequences for other people? For example, are there any negative consequences? You know, how would this affect your home life, for example, or other people in your home or at work, or other things that are important to you? We want to make sure that this goal is in balance with the rest of your life. And I want you to think about what would happen if you do this, if you actually make it happen. And really answer this question. What would happen if you did? And what would happen if you didn't? So in other words, what does achieving this goal do for you? What higher purpose is it fulfilling? If you have this, what sort of person will this make you? What else will you get if you get it? And just answer these questions out loud for yourself. If you could have this right now, would you take it? If I could have a magic wand and make it happen for you, would you let me? We want to make sure that you really want this, because sometimes we think we want something, and then if somebody would to actually give it to us in that moment, we'd be like, oh, you know, and that is a good thing, because then we know there is an obstacle. So I'm going to ask you a question. Can you give me a rating on a scale from of 1 to 10 for your level of confidence in your ability to make this happen? And if it's not 10, then what would make it 10? So the next thing we want to do is we want to explore and understand where you're at right now. Hey, Charlotte, 8. So you've got an 8. So, Charlotte, I want to ask you before we move on, what would make it a 10? What would it take for it to be a 10? If you had what? Maybe it's a skill, maybe it's something else. And you can let me know, or you can just write it down for yourself. Or you can just think about it. Now, the next thing is we want to look at reality. Okay, we want to look at where you're at right now. So I want you to think about what you've actually done already to make this happen. Here we go. Charlotte says, eliminating other things in my life that consume my energy. And what exactly are those things? Now, you don't have to tell me, but I want you to write them down on your piece of paper. Exactly what are these other things in your life that consume your energy? These things that you actually can decide right now that they are not as important as your goal, and you can put them aside. You can put them on the back burner. What are these things? Because often we get sidetracked by urgent things, and that's fair enough. But other times we may be sidetracked by things that we think are urgent but actually are not, or shining object syndrome. Something easier, something that takes your attention in that moment, and it's just easier to get distracted than to actually get on to your goal. Okay, so just take note of what these things are that you can either schedule or let go of or delegate, that are taking you away from your goal. The next thing I want to ask you is, what are the resources you already have? And this could be other people, it could be skills you have within yourself, and also the support of other people, support that you need to get this done. Who could support you? Who could help you, for example, to get those other things out of your way? Once we've got these very practical elements, let's look at the emotions. Let's be really honest with ourselves. What is the most difficult issue for you? What is the hardest, most challenging part of this goal for you? Feel free to write it down, or if you don't want to share, that's okay. This is not for me, it's for you to know. What is the most difficult issue? What is the challenge here? What's the emotion? In what way does this difficult issue actually affect you? Maybe you're afraid of something. What do you think you're afraid of? And where in your body do you experience that tension? So in what ways do you inhibit yourself? Do you inhibit your potential? What are the internal self-defeating thoughts? I am too old, I'm too young, I'm too whatever it may be. I'm not enough. Those are your self-limiting beliefs, but they're also about, they reveal your emotions, okay? So what's contributing to the way that you're feeling and you're thinking about this? And once you've got that, I want you to really think about what has led up to this. What else is fed into this? into this feeling, into this belief. What is feeding the self-doubt? Is it a past experience perhaps you had? Have you perhaps been in a place like this before? What happened? How have you responded to similar situations in the past? Is this something that keeps on happening? Do you see a pattern? And if there is, what's going on inside you? Describe to yourself the emotions that this situation brings to the surface. Maybe it could be anxiety, it could be fear. Often it is. Be honest with yourself. And when you've looked at the past, let's also look at the future. Where do you see this going? How do you want things to turn out instead? What would be the best possible outcome? A compelling future that calls you. If you only felt more confident, if you only knew that you had all the skills that are needed, for example. Or maybe you could access this from the perspective of someone else. Someone that has belief in you, someone that really believes in you, for example. It could be a partner, or it could be a parent, or a teacher, or a colleague. How do you think they see this? What does it look like from that person's point of view? If you were them, what would things look like from their perspective? And also I invite you to look at your values, your principles. What would it mean? What would it mean to be true to your beliefs and your principles in this situation? What values do you hold that will influence your response? What's the real issue here? What makes it significant to you? We want to be really honest with where we're at first, because we're not honest, well, we can't go anywhere. And we're not looking at solutions yet. We're just being honest about what's actually happening emotionally and also practically. We're building awareness right now. And the next thing I'm going to ask you is to think about now the goal, right? Once again, we're going to go back to the goal. And I want you to think about, what do you think are the primary 5 ingredients required in order for you to achieve this goal? Just 5 ingredients. I'm going to give you a minute or so to really think about this. What do you think are the 5 primary ingredients that are required in order for you to achieve this goal? Okay? Starting now. Of course, you can write more than 5, but 5. Right, the minute is past. So remember, you can always get back to this, so it's okay if you haven't finished. But just think about what could you do about this? What could you do to truly achieve this goal? What other potential courses of actions can you think of? If you had unlimited resources, I know you don't, but let's imagine, just to open our minds, that you had unlimited resources and you knew you couldn't fail. Then what would you try? What if all obstacles were removed? What would you do then? You may want to think about, in order to open your mind, different angles. So, for example, what would other people do? Someone who's super confident. Think about someone you know who is very confident, very self assured. What would they do to overcome obstacles? What have you seen them do in similar situations? Maybe you can imagine having a dialogue with the wisest person you can ever think of. What do you think they'll tell you to do? If you got really radical, what would you try? What seems super off the wall? Another way of looking at this is looking at what you've done in the past in situations that were challenging, maybe similar situations, and how could you fit this in what you're already doing? Because often we may think, oh, we need to find something totally new. But what actually worked for you in the past, and how could you fit it in with this new situation? With what you're already doing, making it better, making it work better. You could even, like I said before, step into the shoes of someone that is incredibly creative, someone who's a radical thinker. And what kind of options would they come up with? Who do you know that's like that? And what would they come up with? Now, once you have got a good picture of what's happening right now, what you've already done, so the present, right? We want to look at the obstacles. What's in your way? What's standing in the way? What do you need that you don't have? And you can leave a comment about that if you want, of course. Or you can just write it down for yourself. But it's important to look at the obstacle. And how could you change your objectives or timetable to make this achievable? What resources could you tap into to overcome this obstacle? Or how have you overcome this obstacle or a similar one in a similar situation on the past? Or what could you change about you that would change your situation, that would change this obstacle? Because what I would like you to think about is that, let's just assume for a minute that perhaps this situation, yes, it is an obstacle, but maybe, let's be wacky for a moment, maybe this situation is custom designed for your inner growth as a person. And if that was true, then what's the opportunity here? Let me know what this opportunity is. This is very important. So you can write it in the comments if you like. Be useful. If the situation was custom designed for your inner growth, then what would be the opportunity for you? Because think about it, when we face adversity in life, we're either broken by the adversity or we survive it. Or it becomes a defining moment in our lives. So what response would this make a defining moment for you? What fears, doubts, internal obstacles are keeping you from moving forward? And what would it take for those obstacles to be completely gone? Stepping out of your shell, we got a comment. So stepping out of your shell basically means getting out of your comfort zone, being seen, daring to be seen, daring to show who you really are. Yeah, and when we do that, we risk rejection, but we also, and that's why it's so scary, right? But we risk rejection from the people that are not meant to be in our tribe. Because rejection is never about you. That's the thing, right? Rejection is never personal. It's always to do with the other person. So, actually, when we allow ourselves to be seen by, we find our tribe, because the people that say yes to us are the people that are meant to be with us. But don't take it from me, because this is just my opinion. What matters is your opinion. So what really matters here is becoming aware. Okay, so stepping out of my shell is what's in the way, for example. Right? That's your obstacle. So what would it take for this obstacle to be completely gone? You know, if you were the best you could be, the person you always wanted to be, what would you do? How would you overcome this obstacle? And I want you to actually answer this question, because I've got my own answer. But my own answer might not be the right answer for you. My answer is that we need to be courageous. We need to feel our fears, and yes, it's a cliche, do it anyway. Because being courageous doesn't mean not having fear. It just means having fear and deciding to do it anyway. And it does take guts. But the thing is, the moment we step out of our comfort zone, the moment we take a risk, life becomes exciting. It's worth it. You know, it's not whether it's easy, it's whether it's worth it. Anything of any value is always going to involve effort, involve risk. But when we embrace that risk and we let go of wanting to control everything, then we become who we really are supposed to be, which is just who we always were, without the cloak that was hiding us. And then the beauty gets to shine, right? And the right people really appreciate it. And the people that are not meant to be with us, they don't appreciate it. And that's their thing. It's their stuff. But this is a process that you need to go through yourself. So imagine yourself as a change agent, okay? If you saw yourself as powerful instead of powerless, what would you do? What does it mean, for example, to step out of your shell in practical terms? What exactly is it that you would do if you stepped out of your shell? Does it mean that you would do a video? Does it mean that you would go and talk to a stranger? Does it mean that you would teach a class? What is it? That's what you need to do. The very thing that we're the most scared of doing, that's the thing we need to do. So what does it mean in this example to step out of your shell? And tell me, if you want, what these things are, but what I want you to do is to actually make a list of possibilities. So it's not just one thing, it could be many things. Make it many possibilities. Think about all possible solutions, so to speak. Think outside the box. So what would you do if you really believed in yourself that you couldn't fail, you could change, you can succeed? What are these things? What are the possibilities? How would you step out of your comfort zone? What are those things you would do that you currently or have been until now too shy or scared to pursue? So these are your options, okay? Look at your options now. Write them down or record them. And Charlotte, if you want, just say yes when you've got them written down so I know I can move on. I see Zoe's here as well, so you can do the same, Zoe. Because when we've got the possibilities, now we want to look at what stands out to you. Maybe you have different options. I could make a video, I could write a letter, or an email, I could pitch something, I could start a Facebook group, I could do a webinar, I could do a gig, I could, tons and tons and tons of options, okay? I don't know which ones they are for you, but once you've got them around, thank you. Thank you, Zoe, and thank you, Charlotte. So once you've got these options, now what I want to ask you is, what stands out? What's the most doable? What's the one you will do? Because there's many you could do, but what I want to ask you is, what do you want to do? What is the one option that would most effectively move you towards your goal right now? Which of these alternatives do you want? Which of these makes you excited? Which one of these are you going to act on? And I just want you to choose at least one. Just one that you can commit to. When you've got that one, please, again, let me know. The one option that you choose to act on. What exactly are you willing to commit to do to move forward? And by when? Be specific. I'm going to make a video, 5-minute video of myself explaining what my business is, or how I can help other people, or what my album is about, or what my book is about, whatever it may be, okay? But be specific. What exactly are you willing to commit to doing, and by when? What is one thing you could do now which would have the most impact? We get the ball rolling, so to speak. Okay? And notice your language. Notice how you're speaking to yourself right now. Are you saying things like, oh, I should, I could, someday, one day? Because that's telling you don't really want to do it. Remember that you can choose. You can choose to do this or not. So, what do you need to change about this action step that would help you make a decisive choice? What would make it into something you really want to do? That it's like from 0 to 10, absolutely gonna do this, 10. If it's not 10, then what's in the way? How can you make it 10? What prevents you from being at 10? How can you, for example, reduce the size of the task, or maybe lengthen the time scale to make it a 10? What can you change to make it perhaps more realistic? Or what could you do to increase your chances of getting it done successfully? If, for example, it's something that you have a deadline, how confident are you that you will complete this step by the deadline? Maybe you need to chunk it down if it's too big. Maybe you need to involve someone else that's going to help you make it happen. Just make sure that all the obstacles are cleared. Okay? Thumbs up if the obstacles are clear. Because now we have gone to the bottom of this. I'm going to ask you, we're going to test it, okay? Do you know exactly what to do? This is just the one little step, okay? Do you know exactly what the step is? If not, you need to go back and look at the whole process again. So you want to know exactly what to do next. And the step needs to be scheduled for a specific time. Not one day, but like right now or tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Needs to be specific. The closer to now, the better. You want to step through now and make it into a habit as quickly as you can. Don't leave it for tomorrow. Don't leave it for maybe it's too late at night right now. It's okay, but tell yourself, okay, at this time, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And have that commitment. You know you're going to do this. What's the date for completion? So summarize it, write it down, and very specific points. This is what I've decided to do, and by when. Okay? So basically what we've done today is we've looked at a goal, we've looked at where you're at right now, we've looked at the obstacles that are in the way, we looked at the possibilities of what's needed for you to overcome those obstacles, and then we looked at and made a decision, one thing that you can do to overcome the obstacles or get started, one little step, and then comes the commitment to do that step. So then once you've done that and you've got that done, all you need to do is repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, and always look at your progress, and always really give yourself a reward, which could just be a figurative tap on the back saying well done, for doing this. Because the more you focus on the progress, the more you're likely to actually move forward. Don't focus on the things you did wrong, focus on the things you did right. And every single time, if there's something you want to improve, that's okay, but just improve one thing at a time. And always give yourself credit for the progress you've made. Because it's very important to for motivation to really celebrate success. Whatever you focus on expands. So if you keep on just focusing on things that aren't working, criticizing yourself, well, that's going to expand and you're not going to have any motivation to keep going, So to have motivation, you need to keep focusing on what works, the progress, the things you've done well, and then you can improve step by step, but only focusing on one thing to improve at a time. Something easy, something doable, so you're setting yourself up for success. So I hope this has been useful, and know that if you need more help, one-on-one help, I'm here for you. So you can just reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help you. There's some links here that I've left on this video. So hypnotichealing.co.uk is my website for coaching and hypnotherapy. You can reach me there, or you can reach me on the daretobeseencommunity.com, where I will be pretty much every day. I hang out there quite a lot, and you can reach out to me on Facebook or on Instagram. And I'll be back here next Sunday for 7 p.m. UK for another very practical workshop. We're going to get into even more creative stuff. Today's been more about pretty much coaching. And then every week is going to be another aspect of the creative process. And on a Thursday night at 7 p.m., I'll be live on Facebook and on Instagram for more tips and tricks of the trade. So hope this has been helpful. If so, do leave a comment. I really appreciate it. And see you next week.